Well, hi everybody. This is Dear Mama Sal, and we are live again here on YouTube. This is the second part of a series that I'm doing about my Me Too experience. For those of you who are watching this on the replay, just be aware at the bottom of this, under the notes, it will say from 00 to such and such a time, news, views, and updates, which is what I'm about to do. And then it'll say from another time onwards, the topic. And that will be the part two of this story that I'm about to tell. If you haven't seen part one, let me explain that talked about what I was doing in this African country as an executive guest to a president at the tender age of 16, and some of the horrific things that happened to me in the first week that I was there. And this part of the story talks about what happened to me in the second week that I was there. In fact, the journey home more than anything. And so, hi to Beth, hi to Katie, hi to Jamie, Kerry, and Jody. So good to see you all here, and I'm sure that we will see a couple of others. Thank you for your support. I appreciate that. This is obviously not an easy subject. So um, before I start, though, I wanted to give a big hug to Linda. Hi, Marie. I wanted to give a big hug to Linda, whose dog, Lucky, you remember the rescue dog that she took in? Um, uh, it died. Lucky died, and so our thoughts and prayers are with her. Um, uh, which is really, really sad because he was lucky to find Linda in those last weeks. That's my belief, and I think that was a God plan. Um, Marie, I don't know if you've seen it, but I put Teddy up on the pets page. I'm also going to be putting Lucky up on the pets page. I meant to put him up earlier and I forgot, and now of course he's passed. But he's going into the pets page because he was part of our life for some weeks, and so he deserves his place. For those of you who know Andy, my update there is that if you didn't hear last week, he had a his best friend pass from, I believe, an overdose of some sort. Hi, Erin. Um, Jodie's been having a really tough week with her arthritis problems, and they are not just arthritis problems. She's got serious flare-ups due to her lymphedema that she suffers from. So she's had a really tough week getting some sleep, and I just really am amazed at what she does, and she's still here and she still helps me, and it really, I wish I had her um her get up and go. Um also, my thoughts and prayers go out to Lauren, who some of you know is in a wheelchair a lot of the time, and well, in fact, when she's mobile, she's in a wheelchair. And she has been waiting since she got out of hospital for a new wheelchair that she has to have. It still hasn't arrived. And now, what we heard this week, and correct me where I'm wrong, Jody, was that literally the wheels have started falling off her old wheelchair. So her new one hasn't arrived, and the old one is now falling apart. And the only way you can be out of bed is in a wheelchair, and you don't have one. I don't have to tell you that's pretty frustrating. So thoughts and prayers go out to her as well. If you're new to the broadcast generally, welcome. This subject that I'm doing today isn't the normal one that I would do, but as I will explain, I felt duty bound to do this. And so if you see, I think it's down here. Jody, let me know if I'm pointing in the right place for a bell. And somewhere on your screen, there is a bell. And if you click on the bell, it will make sure it advises you when I'm going to be doing a broadcast, if you'd like to be kept informed. And please follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. And the reason for that is that's where thank you. Jody says I'm correct. I have to do it in reverse because I know that where I'm looking at it, it would be over there, but I think I have to do that in reverse, so it's over there. So very, very challenging for me to have to think today. All right. And in terms of birthdays and anniversaries, first of all, for any Canadians watching, either now or on the replay, a very happy Thanksgiving weekend. It is Canadian Thanksgiving this weekend. And for those of you who know Dougie, he is coming over he's coming over tomorrow. We're going to have lunch together out at a restaurant. And then Yvonne is cooking dinner on Sunday for me. And so that's really quite cute, I thought. And for those of you who know Laura from Ohio, from the original time that we did the broadcast, she's the dancer, you may remember. It's her birthday today, so happy birthday. And Beth, how many days away? I think it's about 4 days away from Lily's arrival in the world. Am I correct in that? The 9th, I think. So we will be welcoming grandbaby Lily this week. So that's very, very exciting for Beth, and trying to get Beth to slow down because her life is busy enough without this. But anyway, now for those of you who are Aussie fans, and some of you know Oz very well, I've had a number of talks with him this week. Good news, he's on his way back to Indonesia, which is great. And he is okay, just hold on 1 second on that one. Let me finish the Aussie story and then I will get to that one, Marie. And please remind me if I get distracted from it. He's going back to Indonesia, which is wonderful because we know how much he enjoyed it there. And I did write to him and thank him so much for his tips that he gave us about how to fall asleep in a hurry. So if any of you suffer from insomnia or have problems going to sleep, he sent me a link last week that is used in the military to get military people to go to sleep, and because they got to sleep on top of rocks and and really weird places, and they never know how much sleep they're going to get, so they have to be able to do it pretty quickly. And I quite honestly didn't think it would work. It did for me. It did for Jody. And then Jody was telling me that she was actually just reading it to her husband, Lionel, and he fell asleep just listening to the instructions. So, I thought that was pretty good. So that's it. And, the very good news. Okay, Kerry. So, Jody, can you make a note of that so that we can send that on to Kerry? But the really good news, I thought, was that Oz tells me that he, this time, is going back with a camera. And that means that hopefully we will be able to see some of him and some of his journey. Who was it that reported that they'd lost some weight this week? Somebody at lunchtime reported that back. He actually wanted to come back to on one of the broadcasts today, but I suggested that he didn't because I had made up my mind I was going to do these 2 broadcasts, and they're not fun broadcasts, and I didn't want to mess with that, if you know what I mean. Oh, it was Trish. Okay, Trish said she'd lost the weight and cleaned up 2 units in her kitchen, which was great. So if anybody else needs some support on anything, this would be a good time to tell us so we can make a note and keep track on, anybody wants to be accountable for anything. I gave real thanks at lunchtime to Jody because she really helped me yesterday. I really needed to get going. For those of you who need an update on my downsizing and move, it was really interesting today because I just got a note from the guy who I'm going to be doing the deal with, and he just got himself a new job and he's going to it in 2 weeks or something. And something really quite astounding. So I tried not to panic. And I tried to just take a really deep breath, and I just wrote back and said, does this change our handover date or anything? And Anyway, I'm going to dinner with him on Tuesday, so we're going to find out. Yes, Beth, you're so right. So cute. Beth says, I need to not take over with the baby this week. I don't know how I'm going to just be grandma. Yes, that's very important, Beth. It's not your baby. It may feel like it is, but it is your daughter's baby. So think about timing here, sort of if you've been holding that baby for more than half an hour, you may want to hand it back to its mother and Lily back to mum. Okay. You know what I mean? It's like, unless you've been asked to give her a break, in which case, you can do what you like then. But just be aware, you're the grandmother this time. All right, Jody, I'm going to do another time check here at 11 minutes. And for those of you who were not at the lunchtime broadcast, I'm calling this my Me Too or We Too movement. I say that because quite honestly, I think that we need to remember that this happens to everybody. What I'm about to talk about is a very unusual case. And I thought it would be a number of things. I thought it would be educational on many levels, but I also thought that it's a one really interesting story if you can imagine it, which I hope that I tell it in a way that you can, although in some parts I don't really want to, but it's a very, very unusual story. And so that's why I thought I would like to tell the story, because I got so triggered watching Dr. Ford at the Kavanaugh hearings, because I was watching her body language and her voice tones. And yes, they were triggers. They're not warning triggers. They are, I suffer from PTSD, Beth, and they were triggers. I could feel my PTSD triggering. And funnily enough, that can get triggered by the smallest things. It can get triggered by a look, a sound, strange things. What triggered me in the testimony that Dr. Ford gave were two parts in particular. One was the bit where she said, about the laughter. That she was there for their amusement. And when I watched how she talked about that and her body language as she talked about it, I went, wow. I really get that. I've been there. The other bit was when she said the bit that, I don't know if any of you heard her, but she actually talked about something being imprinted on her hippocampus. And for those of you who might not know, the hippocampus is part of your brain that only deals with what I call major memories. All right, it's not where all the minor things get stored. It's where the things that make an huge impact on your life get stored. And some of you may have things on there, the first time you rode a bike, or the first time you fell in love, or all sorts of fun things that you might have on your hippocampus. But I found that out when she said that. I totally knew what she was talking about. Beth is asking me, how do you know if you suffer from that? You know it because you keep having rather strange reactions, and you may want to do a bit of research on that, Beth. I'm certain that there are plenty of places online today that will give you the things to watch out for. It's different things for different people. I'm not trying to avoid it. I'm not a doctor. And I am, and I want to make sure everybody knows that. But what I decided after hearing the testimony this week was, I have a story to tell, and maybe I can help somebody in my story. So, for those of you who were there at lunchtime, I wonder what do you think is important enough that I need to repeat quickly to get everybody up to date? Yes, Kerry's saying the, that she remembers her aunt's perfume. Yeah, and Beth also said that smells trigger her. Yes. I found that I have a huge trigger in real life if you corner me, and you're going to hear more about that. There were two instances in the story at lunchtime where I got cornered, and you know when you have and there are more coming, two more coming, but when you get cornered, it is very, very scary, very traumatic. I was explaining at lunchtime that unfortunately I got to witness my first dead body during that time. It wasn't pleasant. And totally out of the blue, nobody warned me that that's what I was about to look at. So it was very, very difficult. I just want to make a reminder here that if you happen to be in a vulnerable place at the moment, this is probably not a video you want to be watching. I have already not contested the fact that they have put a hold on my video not to be, that it's not suitable for advertisers from the one I did at lunchtime. I'm not contesting that at all because I totally understand that. And I will do the same. They will probably do exactly the same with this one. And if I do a third one, they probably will do that as well. My intent here is to sell the second part of the story today and then to start working with different situations and let you know how I have cognitively dealt with some of these things. So if you're in a vulnerable space emotionally, this probably isn't a video you want to be watching right now. Maybe come back and watch it at a time when you're feeling safer. Very quickly, I happened to be the guest of a presidential family in Africa when I was 16. How I got to do that is in the first video. Yeah, you see, Kerry's saying the same thing. By the way, you guys, I'm going to presume if you put it up on type here that it's okay for me to repeat it. If we get new people in, I will check with them. But you guys that are regulars, I'm going to presume that you know that if you put it up, I'm going to talk about it, if that's okay. So if you would like to put okay at the end, I will know that means okay for me to repeat it. That would also be a second one. But Kerry's saying she can't be backed into a corner, right, without freaking out. I totally understand that. That's because you're a survivor, okay? Sudden loud noises or voices scare you. Yeah, if people come up from behind you that you're unaware of and touch you, you freak out. I totally get all of that. Yeah, I've got all sorts of triggers in my life. And you will understand. Some of you, have already had half this story, and you can understand why I've got a few triggers in my life and why I don't trust a great deal anymore, regardless of how much I've worked so hard to change that. So, as I've said, my reason for doing this is in the hope that I might be able to help some people by talking about it. I also just want to tell you how angry I am that people did not believe Dr. Ford's story. I'm so angry about that because I think she was more than credible. And to me, I had no doubt her story was true. So, and I got really quite, I got quite upset, to put it mildly, that you'll forgive me for wording it this way, but a bunch of grandfathers who probably have been in denial of this stuff all their lives made that decision. I just very, very angry about it. And I'm biased and I know that. Wow. Beth, can I just get a double check that that's okay for me to repeat? So I am hoping that some of this will make sense to some people. And I would like to suggest that please hear it in from the place that I want it to be. You know, as Kerry so rightly said today, you know, this is not about poor me or I want sympathy or anything else. It just is what happened. And I'm hoping that by telling you what happened and how I've dealt with it over the years might be of help to somebody else. So I'll be talking in future about how to deal with that anxiety resulting from that sort of trauma, some of the tricks that I taught myself along the way, and some that I was taught. Beth, yes, okay. Beth put a comment up here that said, I thought I recognized my attacker in Walmart when my babies were in the cart and I ran out of the store and left them in the cart. Thank goodness my husband was there. Yes, absolutely. And you see, your first reaction on seeing that person's face was to run for your safety. And, you know, that wasn't your rational mind, Beth. That was your survivor. All right? Yes, exactly. And that is what you have to know. That is a trigger. The face was a trigger, and the trigger said to you, run for your life. Kerry is saying certain smells scare her and make her sick. Chewing tobacco, cigars, Old Spice. Yes. So, you know, it's like, I totally get that, Kerry. The story you're about to hear is true to the best of my ability. I would ask you, as I did at lunchtime, to bear with me. Some of it's not easy for me to talk about. I would ask you to know that I have been through a great deal of therapy and I have done a great deal of work on myself. So, although this is a horrific story on many levels, two things. Number one is I've done a huge amount of work. Thank you, Beth. I appreciate that. I've done a huge amount of work on it, and not only that, I also realize it's there. It's going to be there for the rest of my life. And in some level, I think I have more understanding of others because I've been through it. So I'm going to catch up very quickly. The first series that I did at lunchtime, the first video was about how I got to this particular country. I'm not going to name the country, and I'm not going to name the name of the president at the time, because I just don't see any value in that. I'm pretty sure that the people that I'm going to talk about indirectly or directly are probably no longer on this planet. So there's not a whole lot of reason for that. I also need you to understand that I was quite a I'd like to say I thought I was quite a mature 16-year-old. You know, I thought I knew quite a bit, and what 16-year-old doesn't. And this trip took me from a place of being quite a cocky little so-and-so in terms of what I thought I knew into just almost a blithering wreck, to be quite honest. What it did to me was quite scary, and still does to this day. So I believe that I left the story with the through the streets of the capital car chase story, which was, you know, I want to tell you, was quite something. And I have actually, during the space between the two broadcasts, actually for the first time, actually looked up the palace to get the picture back in my, you know, I knew what the picture was when I was telling the story, but I want, you remember I said to you, it looks like a 5-star hotel that you might see in Vegas. And it was funny because I just saw the picture and I went, yep. And that's exactly how I saw it in my mind as well. And so there are some of these things that are going to be very vivid for me, and some I don't have a lot of vivid memories. And that is because some of it is imprinted on my brain and some of it wasn't important, therefore it wasn't imprinted on my brain. So you're going to hear me say, I'm not sure about that, but then you'll hear other bits where I am so darn sure it's not even funny, which is what I found listening to Dr. Ford made me believe her more and more as she continued the story. Okay, so the important thing was that in the second week, I cannot remember a great deal, if anything, about the second week. And that probably is a good thing because the first week was so traumatic. What I want to tell you about is what happened to me. No problem, Nana. What happened to me on the way back. And so at this time, the brand new ocean liner called La France, or La France, actually it's La France, I think, had just been, I think it was on its maiden voyage. And the idea was that the presidential group was going to Marseille for a big UN type meeting. Do you know what I mean? Sort of some sort of big group of nations meeting, and it was being held in Marseille in France. And so what happened was that this particular ship was on its maiden voyage, and we got onto this beautiful, beautiful ocean liner. I think at the time it was the largest ocean liner that there was. It was as long as the Eiffel Tower is high, and it was, you know, state of the art at the time. It was just amazing. Obviously, it doesn't compare with what you see today because the whole ocean liner business has totally changed into package tours, you know. But in those days, it was really quite something. And so I want you to imagine, if you can, that we had a whole segment of the ship because, you know, you're talking about world leader here, not a world leader, sorry, the president of a country and all of his entourage and so forth. There were whole, you know, I think, I'm not sure how many of us there were. My sense is probably not less than 20, 30 people. But we had a whole section of the ship that was especially for us. And for those of you who remember my horror stories about machine guns on the first week, believe you me, I had 2 guys with machine guns outside my cabin. And there were others positioned in different places. So I want you to understand that that is what I lived at that moment. Now, I'm going to tell you 2 stories, and neither of them is much fun. So again, I'm giving you the warning before I tell the stories. Because if you don't want to hear it, this is the time to get out of the story. So the first one I want to tell you about was, I had mentioned in the first part that there was an ADC, aide de camp to the president, who was really nice to me. And he and I, you know, just by virtue of the fact that I was an executive guest and he was nearly always escorting me around, that I got to know him more and more each day. And by the time we were on the cruise ship, he and I were actually, you know, quite good buds in a sort of strange way. Or that's what I thought. And if you remember, I had said in the original part of the story that he was a big guy. He was probably 6'4", 6'5", and big. I mean, he wasn't just big in stature, he was a big guy. And he was a general, and so he was very imposing to start with. But with a military sort of background. And so you get this picture of this guy. And here I was, a 16-year-old little Sal, you can imagine. So I can remember that we were walking on the top deck. We had a section of the deck that was reserved for us, and it was guarded. And we were walking that section of the deck, chatting after dinner. And as people do on cruise ships, you finish dinner and you go and have a cigarette. And as I told you, I started smoking on that trip. So we were having a cigarette and walking around the deck, and all that was fine. And then the doctor to the president's personal doctor walked past. Now, again, doctor, you'd think somebody that you can trust, and quite honestly, I did. So he said, "Hey, you two, you may, I understand that you're busy chatting and you're having, you're enjoying yourselves, but, maybe you should be doing this below decks rather than for the world to see." And the way that he said it, sort of made sense. And so the general said to me, "Okay, Sal, let's go down and finish this conversation." And I didn't think twice. I really had no reason to think twice, quite honestly. This was ADC to the president, you know what I mean? He was a very responsible person, and the instruction had come from the president's personal doctor. So why would I think twice? Well, I didn't, unfortunately. But by the time I got to the cabin, I realized that was a major mistake. Because, cabins, even at first class level, are not necessarily that big. And what I discovered to my horror was that there is one place to go in and one place to go out, and that is the door. And if anybody is standing between you and that door, especially if they're 6'5" and big, there's not a lot of room for escape. And I want to tell you that the general made a move on me that was very serious. And I fought it verbally, and I kept saying no, and he kept taking that as a come on for some reason. And I kept saying no, and I was getting pretty upset about this, and it wasn't getting me anywhere. And quite honestly, as I said in the first broadcast, I didn't have any training in this at all. I mean, nobody had ever said to me, if this ever happens to you, this is what you do. And I think we should teach both men and women. If anybody tries to assault you, this is what you do. And I think that is base information, and pray to God they never have to use it. But I think it's really important that we teach people what to do. And so it got to what I'd hate to describe as the point of no return. Either I did something in that moment or I was violated. And I don't want to say that I'm particularly proud of what I did. But I didn't know what else to do. I gave up trying to talk my way out of this, and I literally bit through his shoulder. It was the only thing I really could control, because you can imagine, a 6'5" general who knew a lot of martial arts and all sorts of other things. I really didn't have a hope, and I literally bit through his shoulder. Which, strangely enough, worked. Yes, that's interesting, Erin. Erin's saying that her mom did teach her what to do because she was also a Me Too person. Yes, very important. And I mean this equally for men and women, right? And I don't care how young or how old you are, it can happen to anybody. Anyway, I literally drew blood. I'm not proud of it, but I didn't know how else to survive this. And I was so terrified because I realized that in that moment I could have lost my life. You know what I mean? He could have raged and killed me in a heartbeat. And luckily he didn't. He stopped and thought twice about what he was doing. Right, Nana, I haven't got your permission to repeat things that you write on here, so make sure you put okay at the end so that I know I can repeat it, okay? So this was a horrible, horrible moment for me because the one person I did trust in that group was actually this guy. Thank you, Nana. Nana's saying that she thinks almost all women have been a Me Too person at some time, which is interesting. I'm not sure that that is factual, but I agree with you that many more than we think. Right. So, and Kerry's saying her mom was a Me Too as well. I'm not sure who Brandon was in your life, so help me with that one. But somebody taught Kerry some self-defense, and she taught some verbal skills. And that's all very, very important. So I have no memory of how I got out of that room, quite honestly. As you can imagine, that wasn't the bit that it stayed in my mind. Okay, Kerry, I know who that is now. Thank you. I have no memory of very much else at that time. It is almost like a piece of that trip. It was a 4-day trip. A piece of that trip just is missing. And I really can't tell you. Except probably a day later, maybe a little more. No, it would have been within 24 hours. The second major issue for me came up. And this one was really scary. I want you to go back to imagining I've got a beautiful cabin. I've got 2 machine gunners outside to protect me, unquote. A lot of help they were. And I was busy in my cabin about, I think I was getting ready for the next, dinner, lunch, whatever. And suddenly, maybe it was after dinner. The next thing I knew, there was a knock on my door, and I said, come in, because I knew it had to be part of the group because, the machine gunners were protecting from outsiders. And it was the president's personal valet. And I can't remember his name now. It's not important, but I just said, "Oh, hi, let's call him John." I said, "Hi, John, what's up?" Because, he pressed all the clothes, and, if I needed a snack in the middle of the night, he would get it. And, he was like my personal taster as well. You know what I mean? All those sort of things that happen at that level. And so there was something about the way he was looking at me in that split second that I will never forget. He had this really strange look on his face. And while I was being sociable, he turned around and he locked the cabin door. Well, I'm busy processing this, and I cannot think of any reason why the president's personal valet would be locking the door. So in that moment, with everything that had happened to me up until this point, you understand every red flag that I had in my head was screaming that you are not safe right now. He then started to walk towards me with a look on his face that you have to see it to know what I'm talking about. It is a leering look, one. And then he was busy telling me what he was about to do to me, which wasn't fun. And I'm literally going away from him, backing away from him. But the reality is, in a cabin, the more you back away, the more you back towards a bunk. And quite honestly, when my calves of my legs hit the bunk, something changed in my brain, because this was yet another do or die moment for me. And this time I remember he said, with that look, he said, "Now then, young lady, what can I do for you?" And he was laughing. You remember Dr. Ford said something about she remembers the laughter. They were laughing. She had become their entertainment. Do you remember her saying those words? If you listen to the replay of the Dr. Ford testimony, she said that was imprinted in her brain, the laughter, and that they were laughing because she was now entertainment to these guys. And boy, I want to tell you, when I heard her say that, I had a flashback to this laughter that I heard in this cabin with my knees, my calves against the bunk. And in that moment, I literally, you see things like this on movies, but you never think you're going to do it yourself. I got really clear in a matter of seconds, a split second even. I got really clear that this was a valet that I was talking to. This wasn't, a 5-star general now. This was a valet. And and I literally grabbed my clothes that were on hangers, and I ripped them off the hangers. Luckily, the hangers broke, not the clothes. But I literally ripped them off the hangers and I threw them at him. And I said, "Stop and listen to me very carefully. Yes, there is something you can do for me. You can now re-iron those clothes. But you take one more step towards me, and I promise you that even though I may not be able to stop you from what you think you're about to do, I assure you, you better kill me in that moment. Because if you come any closer to me than you are right now, I will report this to the president." Now, you remember that the other things that had happened to me, 2 out of 3, I didn't get reported back, and 1 got reported back without my doing it. So now I was, really good and angry, and I said, "I need you to know that I will report you to the president. And you and I both know what's going to happen to you if you violate a guest of the president. So get the heck out of my cabin right now." And I don't know where I found the strength from, to be honest. I have no idea where I found the courage for that. But I knew in that second that I couldn't stop him. He was a big guy too. I wouldn't necessarily be able to stop him. But I also knew that this was not going to go without being reported. And I did the most terrible thing afterwards. I'm not proud of it, but I need to talk about it because it's part of what I did. I decided that was enough. And I decided to be vengeful. And that's not who I am, but I was to him. And what I did is I literally set my alarm for the middle of the night and I would order meals. And I knew that he would personally have to cook them because that's what you do at that level. And I just didn't eat the meals. I just ordered them up and then I didn't eat them. And that was really not very ladylike of me, if you like, not very kind, but it is what I did. Now, it only happened for a couple of nights because the next thing I remember, or maybe even one night, but the next thing I remember, the valet was missing. He was not on the boat, the ship anymore. And I remember asking what happened to John, whatever his name was. And they said, oh, he got sick. And that last port of call that we were at, he was taken off the boat and flown back to the country. And, I said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that or whatever, and I carried on. And, funny enough, afterwards, I thought, I wonder whether somebody heard the story. I wonder whether somebody queried what was going on. And I wonder whether he was removed off the ship and maybe he never made it back to the country he came from. I don't know. League of Nations rings a bell. There was a meeting with NASA. Have any of you heard of NASA that used to be president in Egypt? For some reason, that's coming back to me now. There was a special meeting with NASA. So it must have been an African type base because it was Egypt and this country that I'm talking about and a couple of others. Anyway, so I'm pleased to tell you that that is really what is imprinted in my brain. I remember getting to Marseille and we had one night in Marseille where we did the town. It was actually, I do remember that with fond memories. It was my first trip to Marseille. I'd never been to Marseille before. And, we literally did the whole French thing. It was amazing, a night and no expenses spared. And it was my last night. I was flying back to England the next day. And it really was. And I know this is going to sound absolutely insane. But if anybody's ever been and understands any of the African or some of the other countries' cultures, that last night in Marseille, this general asked me to be his wife. And I said, excuse me, I think you're already married, And he said, yes, but I'd like you to be my white wife. I was not trained in an answer for that. I sort of think back on it now and I'm going, what do you answer to that? And I just said to him, I'm really sorry, but, the culture in which I have grown up, you only get one wife at a time. And I really have to tell you that is what it's about for me. And I didn't know how to tell him, hey, buddy, you are, an old fart in my brain, and I'm 16, because I didn't, understand in that culture, I was very marriageable at 16, probably over the hill. So I remember that. That's interesting. Yeah, Erin is saying the only thing you can say to something like that is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, otherwise known as WTF. Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday would have been the answer. And something, if that expression had been around in those days, I'm pretty sure that's what I would have thought. So when you take the first week that I discussed on the first broadcast, and now you listen to this second week, can you understand? I learned something between the first week and the second. For those of you who've heard both, and Jodie's saying she's speechless. Again, I am aware of the fact that some people can think I'm making up every part of this. And I'm aware that that is a possibility, but who would make up a story? I was saying today that if you saw this on a movie, you wouldn't believe it. If you turned on Netflix tonight and saw my story of these 2 weeks, you would not believe that any person went through that in a 2-week period. Am I correct? It's just like, how does that happen in 2 weeks to a 16-year-old? Just come out of a convent, for goodness sake, these things are not, I don't know, it's just not what you think about. And so I just wanted to let you know that however terrible it was. Yes, exactly, Nana. I so agree with you. What on earth did Dr. Ford have to gain by coming out with her story? She just didn't want Kavanaugh to be allowed to sit on the Supreme Court, right? She knew it was her civic duty to tell people what he was really like. Well, Erin, yes and no. I mean, Erin is saying, no, you're not making this happen because that would be cool and calculated, but this actually has emotion behind it. But think about it, Erin, if you will. You also know I'm a performer. You also know that I have been, a speaker, and so I know about emotion, and so I could be acting it. Do you know what I mean? And so my question is, because you are smart people, my question to you is, what makes you think that I'm not acting it? That I'm not making this story up? What makes you think that I'm not acting the emotion? And that's what I really want to get to, is how do you tell if that is a truth or not? And so, you will each have your own answers for that. But I really do want you to know that this wasn't the only time that I hit problems in my life. And some of you probably knew that instinctively anyway from stories I've told in the past. But this 2-week period was so imprinted on my brain that it didn't matter what I did to try and erase it or lessen it. It's been there all my life. And you imagine living a lifetime with those memories. And you can probably understand why I have, certain things trigger PTSD with me. Yeah, that's interesting. Erin's saying that she's known me for a while, and she's seen me in performer mode, and she's seen me not being a performer. And so I appreciate that, Erin, but people who don't know me wouldn't necessarily know that. But I wanted to own the fact that I have been a performer in my life, and therefore, performer allows the reality that a certain amount of acting goes into being a performer, whether you mean to or not. It just is the reality of what happens. So the story is not a fun one. The story is a story I hope nobody ever has to live through, quite honestly. Ever since I started talking about the fact I was going to do this, I've heard some horror stories. Yes, interesting, Erin. Yes, and Erin saying, plus it was you who taught me to watch body language in everything. Yes, I've always said, don't believe the words, believe the body language. So Um, now I've got to stop thinking about my body language for a second. So that's what I was trying to say earlier, Erin, that when I watched Dr. Ford, I was watching for that. I was watching for when did she flinch? When did she cringe? When did her voice break? You understand, voice tone, body language? I was watching for those things and listening for those things as much as I was listening to her story. Quite honestly, I just didn't know how she told the story with as much grace as she did. But that was what blew me away. I don't think I could tell my story with that much grace. But I totally got what she said about things being imprinted in her hippocampus. And I'm hoping that you understand now what that is all about. You have certain memories that it doesn't matter how long you live. I'm thinking, Nana, you've got them imprinted, in your memory. I know because you talk about it a lot. I want you all to understand it. It is there. You cannot erase it. It will be there. It's how we deal with it that's important. Yes, Nana, I agree with you. He lied under oath. He lied about the Devil's Triangle. He lied about boofing. I think it's called boofing. And he lied about the FFFF. Yep. So apparently that's not important. I can't believe that that's not important, that he lied. Stone cold lied. But I'm not an American, so what right do I have, I guess? And and let's be honest, that lying starts at the top of that tree, right? There are other people in the US that are lying through the top of their heads as well, that hopefully will one day be asked to account for it and pay penalty for it. So I don't know if this has helped anybody. My big fear about telling the story was that I may make it worse for some people. But what I do know is that maybe I can help one person. Maybe one person can understand better. Maybe I've already had a couple of people write to me and tell me their stories. And so I just want you to know that you are not alone. And you probably knew that already. And that, excuse me, that more people than you know understand. More people than you know understand the terror. The interesting thing that I have found, and that's part of what I want to talk about when I do the follow-up to this, which will be, you all asked me to do some work on cognitive therapy. And what I wanted to do was to talk through some of this stuff, how I have done that in my own life. But, you can do so much, but the reality is you have to accept the fact that that is imprinted on your brain. And it's not going away in anytime soon. So I think that's called compassion. Nana, you talking about your triggers, right? That you have to have compassion for yourself. And you you may choose to do the work around this, with a therapist or whatever. And I say you, but I mean anybody. I spent a long time in therapy. I didn't do it until I was in my 40s, quite honestly. By the way, nobody knew what happened to me when I got home. I didn't tell the story. But I know the person who arrived back in England was not the same as the person who left, and you can all understand that. Yeah, Nana's saying she did the work as well, and that's why I'd like to do, at least one follow-up on this where we can talk about the work we have done and what helped and what didn't. And because I think between us all, I know Kerry's done a lot of work on herself on issues. Nana has, I have, I'm pretty sure that a few others have as well. And so what I'd like to do is to say, okay, what worked for you? Because I think different things work for different people. So, done. Yes. You have to, you do actually, you're right, Nana. At some level, you just have to accept it's happened, it's gone, it's done. You can't change it. You can wish that it were different, but it's not going to change. It's done. And that's a very important part of the big puzzle in my mind. And I want to tell you that this is the first time I've actually was encouraged to write the book about this journey. And I was saying at lunchtime that the Reader's Digest actually told me to write it. And I said that I didn't want to write it because, as you know, this was my good friend at school, not my best friend, but she was a really good friend of mine. And why would I do that in her lifetime? I have a funny follow-up on this one. I stayed in touch with the friend for the longest time, even to when I ended up in Africa. Not in Africa. Yeah, I ended up in Africa when I went to South Africa many years later. Whoa, hang on a second. 6 years later, I ended up in Africa. In South Africa. And I can remember the first letter I wrote out of South Africa was to the presidential palace of another country. And I remember somebody coming up to me. This is quite funny if you can see the humor in this. Somebody coming up to me and saying, "Are you really writing to the president of of an African nation?" And I said, "Well, actually, it's his daughter." Yeah, but yeah. And they said, "You do know you're in South Africa?" And I said, "What's the point?" And they said, "They don't like that sort of thing, you know." And I said, "What?" They said, "That's likely to get you taken away and the keys thrown away once they've put you in jail." And I don't know about you, but I never thought about that. So I managed to get one letter out with a friend and had them mail it. They were going to London or something, and mailed it from London to say that I apparently was a security risk if I continued to write. So please to understand, if she didn't hear from me except very occasionally, this would be why. And that's the only thing I could think to do, was to tell her that truth. So, any questions? And can you understand that I thought about this long and hard in terms of, do I tell the story or not? And what I said was, if I don't tell it now, I probably never will. So this is, I've got nothing to lose here. Do I really care who thinks anything of me anymore? I don't think that this is the same risk that I keep thinking about Ellen coming out when she was at the top of her career. That was a risk, and other people. I look at it and go, I don't have a risk. All right, so Beth's saying that she doesn't believe in letting go. You can't let go. When you can accept it. I don't think that accepting is the same as letting go. Let me ask, Nana's just gone, but for those of you who have faith or have been through enough therapy on this sort of stuff, I don't think it's the same thing. Did I have anger towards my parents for allowing you to go without having chaperones? I have more anger at the Foreign Office than I do at my parents. I did a pretty good con job on my parents, I think. But to some degree, yes. When I look back on it now, I have a certain amount, but they were assured I was going to be safe, and I did such a convincing job with the Foreign Office that I actually convinced the Foreign Office I was going to be fine, that I was more than capable. Duh. Little did I know what I was going to come up against. I was never contacted by the Foreign Office, by the way, afterwards to find out how the trip went, or if there's anything they needed to know in case anybody else got invited, which I think would have been not a bad idea. Yeah. So do you understand the point that I'm making, everybody? That you it was a bit like I've had this lifelong argument about what the nuns taught me about turn the other cheek. There's a difference between if somebody asks for forgiveness, that you can say, I can forgive you, but I'm not going to forget what happened. All right. You can accept their apology, but it doesn't mean that you have to forget what happened. I look at it and go, I think there is a difference between letting go of the pain. Now, you probably know as well as I do that in telling the story, there's still an awful lot of pain there. However much I try to cover it, there's still an awful lot of pain there. And that's reality. Okay. So, to me, this is like, I've tried very hard in my 6 years of being a broadcaster that I would tell you as far as I could, the truth on a number of subjects. Because as you know, I feel very strongly about the fact that there is too much sugarcoating and too much perfection, I believe, going on in a lot of the YouTube stuff. And I don't think that young people, are getting enough reality. And then my big fear about this is everybody thinks you can go on YouTube and get rich. Everybody thinks that, they're perfect families who don't have anything go wrong, that they're perfect children, and all these things. And I'm going, yeah, but that isn't true. That's not reality. And I don't know when you guys first got a serious wake-up call to reality. There was one point in my life, and I remember getting really angry, such an amazing thing, when Rock Hudson first announced that he had AIDS. I was so angry at him. Not because he was gay, not because he had AIDS. I was so angry at him that throughout the whole of my growing up time, he had been the perfect leading man. He, and Doris Day, I mean, and they lived happily ever after. I was so angry about that. How could you have spun me that lie for so long? I know that sounds really strange now. And the same thing, if I look back and I go, who was I angry at during this trip? Not the president, not my friend. I was really angry at the doctor, who I believe set me up. And I can assure you that he and I had a few words before I got off that ship. And I told him what I thought about that he had set me up for that. And he laughed, and I remember him laughing and saying, well, I saw the scars that the general will have for life. So, I said, that's not the point. How could you do that to a 16-year-old? Really, think about that. And he laughed. You remember that laughter again, that Dr. Ford talked about. Yeah, it was funny, apparently. And that's the one thing you hear time and time again from survivors. Little things like that. It's those things that make you angry. It's, the fact that it was entertainment in those days. It was conquest. Yes, I'm sure, Beth, I was not the first one. And what about my lifelong emotional scars? Be grateful for them, Jody. If I didn't have them, I doubt I'd be doing this. I want to tell you that I did let Benji know that I was going to do these broadcasts because I thought, because of our association, that he needed to know. And yes, what about these lifelong emotional scars? We've all got them. I'm not the only person in talking on this broadcast or in this group that's got emotional scars, lifelong ones. You see, it's the cross that we got given to bear, if you like. We each get given great joy and great sadness in different ways. And, are the scars that I bear any worse than Erin's? I don't think so. Or Beth's, or Kerry's, or Jody's. Yeah, Jody's saying that that the doctor made fun of the general scars, but didn't think about the emotional scars I would be left with. I don't think they thought about that in those days, Jody. Right? And remember, this was a different culture. This was an African culture where women, you married lots of them, right? So if one had a headache, you had 6 more you could choose from. So you've got to think about all these things. It's all very different culture, all very different understanding. And in those days, for those of you who are, a little bit older, really, women were playthings more than anything. No, equality? No. No, that word didn't. Except, it's funny because in some African cultures, the women are very revered. So, you have to be a little bit careful because it's not all the same. But, let's put it this way. Barefoot in the kitchen was definitely the way to go, and producing lots of babies. So I don't know if any of you have ever heard the story about Seretse Khama of Botswana, who married a white woman back in the 50s. Do any of you know that story? They made a great movie about it. And if any of you are interested, I will try and track it down. I think it's on Netflix, quite honestly. It's on one of those things. And it really was an incredible story about what happened. Yeah, and that's true, Bernice. Bernice is saying that what came to mind for her was that without our sorrows, we cannot appreciate the good times. If, each one of us goes through darkness and light. Each one of us goes through incredible pain and incredibly good humor, if we're lucky. Each one of us goes through sickness and in health, some more than others. Some of us carry different scars. And so, I look at it and really part of what I'm trying to say here is, so I had this experience. Erin has had the experience of being, basically bedridden for most of her life. Lauren has spent her life in a wheelchair. So, I look at all these things and go, Jody got cured of cancer and then got lymphedema. And, really, she got lymphedema from having the treatments from cancer. So, you look at it and you go, everybody has their story. But I wanted to tell this part of my story because of what was happening around the world. And I do believe that what happened and is happening, I understand that this guy is still going to be um, approved to go onto the Supreme Court. I have a feeling that this is going to cause even more chaos than we have seen up until now. I really do believe that there is going to be a huge backlash from women because of what it will mean. And I don't know what the result of it's going to be, but I don't think it's going to be fun, quite honestly. What do they say? You know, none is so dangerous as a woman scorned. So to me, I'm just very glad to live in Canada. Very glad to have, you know, I'm not sure. Maybe Nana knows, but I'm not sure how many women we've got sitting up in those halls of power. But I know we've got a lot. You know, I just am very grateful that it is, you know, a very different environment, and I think there's a lot. There is no one great country, and I understand that, and I admire so much of what the States has done in the past, and how many times it has come to the aid of the world, and we all need to be thankful for that because we probably wouldn't be here without it. But now I'm not so sure. You know, I'm really not sure what the story will be. But I do know there are an awful lot of angry people. And it was really interesting. I was listening to David Brinkley on a broadcast last week where he said there are an awful lot of women that listen to Dr. Ford's story in the States and are very angry. And the first time in my life, I actually sent a tweet to David Brinkley. And I said, be aware that we are not talking just women in the US that are very angry. You know, there are women internationally. I've been watching the feed all day. I watched the Twitter feed all day during those hearings. And you would be amazed how many international women were commenting. I think it will affect us all, Nana. And I don't want to be a negative Nelly on this, but I do believe something very real here. I think although people are going to be very angry, we need to do our best to understand this is, you know, a couple of people in the world. This is not the world in general. And this is in a country where they have democracy. So if enough women are angry enough, this will change. You know what I mean? You know, it's like the place to fight this is at the ballot box. That's the only place that's going to make a difference. And so to me, what I wanted to do was not be angry. I really thought about it and thought, what can I do that maybe will help and make a difference? Maybe I can tell my story and maybe I can discuss it a bit with people privately that need to talk about their story. And maybe that will help. Because like the famous story about the starfish, right? You know, you throw the starfish back in the water, oh, what good is that for starfish? It doesn't help anybody. Well, it sure helps one starfish. And that is always been my belief. If one of my broadcasts can help one person, it was worth doing. So, and that is what I want you to understand, that getting angry is important. And when I say important, because we need to feel that emotion. But then we need to work out, where do I want to put this energy? Because anger is an energy. Do you agree with me? And so we need to direct the energy. So I could have sat all week in very strong post-traumatic stress problems, or I could say, okay, where am I going to put this now? What am I going to do with it? Am I going to bottle it up and relive it and do nothing with it? Or am I going to do something with it. And I decided I am going to tell the story, regardless of what it does to Dear Mama Sal. Regardless of the fact it's going to red flag a couple of broadcasts. But it's important, I believe. Okay, so we got about a half an hour left. Anybody got any comments? Anything you'd like me to talk about? Anything else that you would like to hear? Any other news, views, and updates? Phew. I know somebody who's going to sleep well tonight. Or not. Whew. It's really weird. I just want to, just while I'm waiting, there is a really strange feeling inside me right now. Oh, yes, sorry, Marie, I apologize. Marie and her random flea question. I had a flea infestation once. The best thing, where have you got it? Throughout the house or just in a localized area? Thank you for your patience, Mary. And it's in the carpet. Okay. So what the best thing to do is to talk to your pharmacist or to go to Home Depot or something like that. They make special bombs, not literally, but that you can put in a room, seal the room off, and then these things let off a certain vapor that will kill 90% of the fleas or more. I found there are lots of sprays that you can buy. It's an expensive way to go because, but I would, clean. I would not take anything out of those rooms that could. Yes, Nana says she uses spray from the dog food store. Yes. Okay, so they're coming in with you. Really? That's unusual. Where do you know they're coming in from? Because fleas normally are on animals. What I can tell you is I had. Oh, the hurricanes stirring them up. Okay, so I can tell you that I had an infestation with my first dog, Bud, my first dog in this house, and it took about a month of very serious. I found what was really helpful. I know this sounds really strange. Anywhere that I knew there was a problem that might not have been cleared up, I put down a plank and I had wrapped the plank in Scotch tape so that when they jumped on the plank, they stayed there. So, in other words, use everything that you can possibly think of. You may need to bomb that 2 or 3 times, with what's going on. But I found that really helped. I literally took planks of wood and packaging tape, and I put the sticky side out, and I put them in different places all around where I knew there was a problem. So, put them in different places in the bedroom, and I wouldn't be sleeping in that room either. I would probably find out. I think a steamer works well with fleas. Am I correct on that? Do you have a steamer at home? Um, yes, but maybe somebody has got one. And literally steam your mattress, because you can wash your bed linens and stuff, but the mattress is, yeah, And Google a lot. Yeah, find out what they're telling you to do in Google, right? Because you're not the only one. I believe that talcum powder is also helpful. I could be wrong on that one, but I've got a feeling that, cornstarch or talcum powder also helps. There are lots of what I call non-toxic ways that can be helpful. All right, so that's my. Does anybody else have they lived that heck? I lived it. Yeah, so let it sit and then vacuum up. You don't do it once, do it a number of times. Well, then Google that question. Google, does steaming a memory foam mattress damage it? Oh, that's a very good idea. Nana says lights with water. Now, that combination is not very good because you can electrocute yourself. But what I'm thinking about is you may want to put some tea lights floating in a bowl of water. Very good idea, Nana. Yeah. So tea lights floating in a bowl of water, they will be attracted to the light, and then they'll fall in the water. The other thing would be tea lights and honey, because they'll stick to the honey. So do all those those non-toxic things you can think of. And what you will find is that eventually you will get control. As I said, it took me about a month. I've had two infestations in my house, neither of which was I happy about. One was with fleas, and the second one was, I think I told you guys, I once didn't realize it, but I bought in a bag of flour that had that that moth in it. And boy, that took me a long time to clear my house of those things. Well, it might not have been a month, but if the main thing is I got rid of it. That is the important thing. But I had to keep doing the same things over and over and over again. And the good news was it kept getting less and less and less and less. Now, the truth is, if you've got a dog or a cat or whatever, you're still going to have the odd flea every now and then. So make sure that you keep up, the flea powder and the flea collars and everything else in the meantime. The other thing, be careful what you use, because some things that are okay for us are not good for your animals. So be aware. Oh gosh, Marie. Marie. Disneyland is over there. I just got to repeat this because this is so priceless. I can't wait to get rid of them. I wish they wouldn't have come around my midterm exams. Yeah, well, that's a total waste of time thinking about that because they did. Marie, I understand. And the vet has given you a special spray as well. All right, that's good. So between it all, you know that anything that the vet gave you is not going to be harmful to your animals. So that's good. You'll find that simple things, I can't remember what they are, but I'm certain that you'll Google it all. But simple things, I think it might be things like coffee or, um, stuff like that sometimes are really good for getting rid of pests. But the one that worked for me was the sticky papers. I had them, I had them stuck all over the place, and this was called "Jump on here and see what happens to you." Yep. Okay, so I hope that helps a little bit, Marie. And you vacuum, yes, and also understand that every time you vacuum, you need to empty that bag outside, far away from your house. Yes, Nana's working on fruit flies. Bernice was having a problem with fruit flies as well. Well, it's a pleasure, Marie. That's what we do here. We try and help each other with these sort of, little gems, because it is important to share that knowledge. What did I see today? Uh, I didn't know this. That, WD-40 on a mirror will stop it steaming up. And if you put it on your car windows in the winter, they won't freeze. Did you know that? Just put a little bit on a rag and um, wipe down your windows and then wipe up off the excess, and then your windows won't freeze. Yeah, Nana's saying for the fruit flies, they put a glass with fruit inside it and put saran wrap on the top and then a couple of holes in it. Rosemary. I knew there was an herb of some sort. Rosemary is good. Thank you, Jody, for getting rid of fleas. As is diatomaceous earth. Now, you can get that at a hardware store. Diatomaceous earth is what they use in swimming pools. So go talk to, your local Home Depot or Rona or whatever you have. Shaving cream on a mirror and wipe it off for no fog as well. Yes. Yes, you can also use apple cider vinegar. There are all sorts of different ways to get rid of fruit flies. How do you get rid of spiders? Well, there you go. That's a good thing. Marie says she read not to use the swimming pool diatomaceous earth, but to use the food grade one. I didn't know there was a food grade one. I wonder what they use it for. Yeah. So, I mean, all these. Yeah, Beth says spiders, call Charles, her husband, Diatomaceous earth is what it is. Nana, that's what DE is. They use it in a supplement in horse food. Really? I didn't know that, and I've had a horse or two or three. I didn't know it was in horse food. Chestnuts get rid of spiders. Didn't know that. I found that scrubbing bubbles does quite a good job on them. but that's pretty toxic, but I had rather a large one that scared me. Okay, so some essential oils get rid of things. Yes, peppermint, I think, or one of those gets rid of stuff as well. So, thank goodness for Google. We are so lucky in this day and age, because we really just have to spend a bit of time and research it. An equal part of water and white vinegar kills spiders. Yeah, I'm sure it does. Which means that lemon juice probably would as well. Okay, now wait a minute, Nana. That is priceless, Nana. I don't mind the ones I can see, but it's the ones I don't see that scare me. Now, quite honestly, that I have to see them to get scared. All right, so Bernice, you want to be accountable to at least do the daily routines. Okay, so have you been in overwhelm a bit, Bernice? With the all the illness stuff. So, Banana says, yeah, they got a family waiting to get me. Okay, so you're part of the fitness group, Sakura. Just let the fitness group know what it is you want to get done every day, and we will support you there. Yes, that is the whole thing. Really don't try to overdo it because you're still healing. You've had biopsies and stuff done. So take it easy. Yeah. So, and then that's what I do when I get overwhelmed. And by the way, Jody was wonderful with me yesterday when I asked for some accountability. Because, and just focus, just say to yourself, what I do is I will say, okay, this is what I want to try and get done in the next hour. And then I go and do as much as I can. And then I come back and report. And then, I go, okay, in the next hour, this is what I'd like to get done. And then, and quite honestly, don't plan for more than an hour. And just sort of get your list in priority order. Okay, Beth says, I watched a movie one time when someone in the movie was asleep with their mouth open and a spider crawled in there. Yeah, yeah. I want to tell you, you're not going to believe this. Yeah, and Bernice is saying she saw her uncle get a cockroach in his ear. Yeah, cockroaches don't remind me of that either. I want to tell you, I had a guest that came to visit in Africa, and he was sleeping on the floor, and I was talking to him, and I watched a baboon spider. Look it up, baboon spider. I watched a baboon spider actually crawl over his sleeping bag. And I didn't know whether to tell him because he hadn't noticed. But I'm not joking. Baboon spiders are like, they are not fun. And what I had to do was say to him, stay there a second. I just need to get something from the kitchen. And I went and got a big bowl. And I came back and I just went plump. Yeah, a baboon spider. You definitely, I recommend you check that one out because um, they are, and they're hairy as well. They're nasty. Nana, I think that's a compliment you just gave me. But what is it that you like about that? So you're saying this is a channel on different nights when Sal's not on. So what is it that you like? Yeah, it is hideous, Jody. You're right. And imagine it walking over a friend of yours, and it's just like, yeah, it was hairy. It's hairy as well. It is, if you did anybody see King Solomon's Mines, the original version way back, that it was like a tarantula. Okay, so let me just see here. Beth watches cleaning videos. That relaxes her. Can you believe it? Yeah, I watch them, but I feel very guilty when I watch them. They make it look so easy, and it's so difficult for me. But I always think about Beth when I'm watching it and going, I really should invite Beth over. She'd have a field day, So, so interesting. So honest chat. I thank you for that, Nana. It is what I wanted to do, and I was prepared to. Yeah. Yeah, to me it's really important. I really don't think that that showing the perfect part of every day. Beth's going cleaning party. Well, actually, what you could do that would really probably help a lot of us, Beth, if you'd be interested in doing it. Which is to pick a focus area. Like, how do you clean a kitchen cupboard? All right. And then, we'll do, on one of the broadcasts, we'll have a cleaning segment. Because I think a lot of people are interested in that. And we'll do we'll do a cleaning challenge for the week. What do you think, guys? Now, obviously for Beth, it's a no-brainer because she does it automatically. And I've got a feeling that Nana does a pretty good job automatically as well. Well, yeah, if you could do a how-to video, even better. And, there's, yeah, Marie's just happy to have a cleaning party, right? No, I say that because I do believe that it's like, hi, Kez. Yeah, it's like the situation with the fleas, right? It's an important to me now thing. But I was looking at what's left in my house to downsize, and I got this big wake-up call when I realized that I may have to totally change my my moving date. But I will know this week after I've gone for lunch. And I thought, gosh, if I had to get my house ready to sell in a couple of weeks, what would I need to do? And what I realized was I would need to get a couple of people like Beth in, a couple of friends that I know are OCD cleaners, and just say to them, okay, help me get the last of this tidied and help me get everything down into the garage that needs to go there. And, I could probably do it. Yeah. But you know something, Nana? There's part of me that goes, I know that you are so clean and tidy that, I don't care how tidy I think this is by comparison. I probably still will be quite embarrassed. You didn't know. That's right, Sakura, because in the Philippines, they don't shampoo carpets, right? By the way, what works really well with carpets, if you want to do a quick job on them, is I use baby powder. I go to the dollar store and buy cheap baby powder, sprinkle it on my carpets, and that works really well. Right, because you didn't have carpets in your house in the Philippines, right? So now, and by the way, to my horror, I've got 2 carpets in my kitchen, 2 rugs. Why is it the rest of my kitchen floor is perfectly good, and every time I pick up those 2 rugs and I shake them, the dirt that comes off them is amazing. So what I realize is that when you don't have carpets, you keep sweeping all that stuff up. When you have them, it just gets ground into the carpets. Well, I want to tell you, I can remember in Africa that people cleaned carpets by hand. Yeah, I can remember that. I can remember people on their hands and knees shampooing carpets by hand. And if you want to do a quick way of doing it, obviously, if you want a good way of cleaning carpets, you get a steamer in and do it. But yeah, it's, you can do it by hand. Literally just take hot soapy water and a couple of cloths and, just literally wipe the carpet. You'll be amazed at how much comes up just with I use face cloths. How do you rinse it? You rinse the water out and you go over it a second time. You don't throw water at it. You do it with a damp cloth. First with a soapy damp cloth, but wrung out, so it's just damp. It's not wet, it's damp. And then just rub over the top of it. If you use a white one, you'll see how much comes off doing that. You'll be amazed. Now, the other thing is you bring in a company and have them do your carpets. Yeah. I mean, that's how we used to do it. By the way, I found, this is really going to make some of you laugh. I'm inclined to still have paint on my floors, when I'm moving around doing paints and stuff. I have You know those green scrubby things? I don't know what they're called. What are those green scrubby things called? They're like plastic. Is there a generic name for them other than green scrubby things? Scouring pads, yeah, but the green ones, right? What I do is when I actually clean my kitchen floor, I put one of those under my foot. And what I do is I will, uh, wash my kitchen floor, but wherever I see a mark, I will just rub my foot. You can see me doing that, right? Rub my foot. Good exercise for the legs, people. And then I will carry on and I see another mark and I'll scrub it with the scrubby. It works really well. Good night, Nana. Um, you'll be amazed how well that works. And I always think it's good exercise for my legs. So, but the cleaning of carpets, you can probably pick up, and if you end up, yes, I want to tell you something. I didn't realize how much gets contained in carpets until I got rid of mine, and I saw what was underneath my carpets. That horrified me. And so I definitely am very glad I put laminate in my place, and I'm really glad that I did, because it's been a lot easier since then. I don't care how well you vacuum, it still stays in there. However, Beth, how do you clean carpets? Because Beth knows how to really do this. The difficulty with tile. Okay, that's interesting, Marie. I've been in a house where the whole floor was tile. First of all, you need underfloor heating because tile is very cold. Remember, tile is dangerously slippery. Have you thought about that? Okay, so Beth's got an industrial carpet cleaner, so that's it. Yeah, I really wouldn't recommend tile. I want to tell you, today's laminate is pretty darn good. And manufactured wood is amazing. You can scratch the heck out of it. Okay, so there is a non-slip tile. Yes, you're always barefoot in your house, but your guests might not be. I do have tile in my lobby, but I have non-slip industrial grade. It was actually leftover tile from a hotel, so I knew that it was non-slip. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, I was in a house in Germany once that had white ceramic tile everywhere. It looked amazing, I have to say that. But you know me, I drop so many things. You know how many tiles I would crack? So if you're a klutz like myself, I couldn't have a tile floor unless the tile was this thick. I couldn't have a regular tile floor. I have tile on the floor in my bathroom, my guest bathroom, now that I think about it. And the tile I have in my bathroom is the 1-inch square tile. And that isn't slippery. Mind you, I've got bath mats out, so that also helps. But you have to be careful about the grout. I found that if tile is great on a ground floor level. If you're, my house is 2 levels. I found that any grout on the second level keeps popping out because the second level moves. Do you know what I'm saying here, Marie? There is more flexing on a second level floor. Yes, dark grout is definitely a great way to go because it doesn't show that it's dirty, but then you also don't know it's time to clean it either. Yeah, I've got, I have to redo the grout in my bathroom every now and then because of the flexing of the wood. Yeah, you want a one-floor house like a rancher. Okay. That's your dream. And that tile would work on that as long as you've got, you need a really good subfloor to put tile down properly. So I found all the tile downstairs, I haven't had any problems with the grout, but the tile upstairs I have because the house flexes on that second level. Right. In the Philippines, yes, you do all concrete. And by the way, concrete can look great. In Africa, we use slate a lot. When I was in Africa, nearly all the houses were slate tile. You want to build your own house, right? That's that's very difficult to do, but best of luck. Mind you, some people do it really well. I keep thinking about Benji and Judy, that house that they built. They did that in an incredibly short space of time, and they really designed it so well. Benji did an awesome job on that, and he also was project manager on it to a large degree as well. And when I looked at what they did in such a short space of time, it was amazing. And the fact that they moved in just on Christmas Day, just about. I always remember that. It was just like insane. So your mom and dad built a beautiful house, all right, and you want to be like them. Okay, that sounds wonderful. Yeah. So I'm hoping that today helped some people, and if it did, I would encourage you to leave some notes on the comments on the videos, just so that other people can be encouraged to watch them. So it's if you have people in your life that have gone through tough times, please feel free to um, let them see the videos so that they know, they're not alone and that there is hope after this. I will not do any more of this on Sunday. On Sunday, I will go back to our usual Soul Sunday broadcast. And then next week, I will start talking about journaling. I've been asked to do cognitive journaling. So I want to talk about that so we can take different examples. So if any of you have issues that you'd like some help with, write to me on DearMamaSal@gmail.com and let me know what help we can give, what areas you would like some help with, and getting your mind turned around on some things. For example, how do I turn around when I start getting this playback stuff happening on the trauma? How do I turn that around? I'll be doing stuff on that because that's really important. Beth says she can put up siding. I think I can too. It's easier than it looks, right? And the same thing with roofing is easier than it looks in some way. What's for dinner tonight? Tonight, I don't do dinner because it's Friday, and I'm not doing dinner on Sunday, Beth. I'm having dinner on Sunday. Tomorrow, I'm going out for lunch with Dougie. And because it is Thanksgiving weekend, Yvonne is cooking dinner this week for me. How about that? So that is really awesome. Oh, Cindy, welcome. Cindy, there are two. There's this one and the one I did at lunchtime. Oh, what am I actually physically eating tonight? You really want to know that? I quite honestly, because I have been doing the broadcast and I'm pretty exhausted, it will probably be some steamed vegetables. Um, what I am inclined to do, Beth, is I will put some sliced potato and some sliced vegetables, and I will just let it uh, just sit, cook in the oven for about an hour, and so that I'm eating good stuff rather than bad stuff. Otherwise, I will just eat bad stuff. Does that make sense? Yeah. Wow, that sounds good. Dinner was Costco chicken and orange and passion fruit. Wow, that sounds really good. Yeah. And I'm probably for dessert will have another bowl of fruit. Now, Jody, you've been pretty quiet, so I just wanted to check with you. Does anybody else here other than Jody know about this moringa powder? Yes, soup is another thing I go to. I've got some homemade soup that I can go to. Okay, does anybody else take this stuff? I think that's what it is. I'm just typing it, people. Okay, so this moringa powder, how long is it meant to take before I start feeling the incredible effects of this stuff? Oh, Sakura does. Well, have any of you seen it? Okay, let me get it so I can show you. Hold on. Okay, now Jody will tell you more about it than I can, but it's from the leaf of a moringa tree, and it's very finely ground, very finely ground. It's meant to have, will it make you 20 years younger? Well, yeah, that's what I wondered as well. It is really basically meant to do wonderful things, to help your metabolism, help your joints, help. Jody is really good on this. She's been taking it because of her stuff. So if you are low in good stuff, this is really good stuff. But the problem is, how are you going to take it? And the reason I say that is because you can put it into a drink, but because it's so fine, it's inclined not to get absorbed. So I actually put it in water and then I filter it because otherwise it just ends up being a mess. Okay, here we go. It's an anti-inflammatory, a digestive aid, a weight loss. I haven't lost any weight, but I'm sure that I will eventually. So, and the other thing is, you have to be a bit careful when you start taking it because it can it can give you the runs rather easily, right? Because it is so high concentrated. Yes, I definitely make it. I definitely make it into a hot tea with lemon. That's funny you should say with hot tea, but I actually make a hot tea with this and lemon and hot water. Is it expensive? Yes, it definitely helps with things like rheumatoid arthritis. I have that as well. Hi, Nyasha. So now I'm not. The reason I'm talking about it is because it is Jody found out that she didn't like the taste of it, for example. So what she's done is she actually puts it into capsules and then takes it as a capsule. All right. So Sakura's saying she puts it in her food, especially into rice. Yes, because you can't really notice it. How much do you use, Sakura? Somebody asked, is it expensive? I bought a bag about this big. It was probably $26, but you don't use a lot. So I've got probably about 5 of these out of the bag. You use 1 to 2 tablespoons. All right. So that really gets your digestion going, as they say. Okay, so I'm up to a teaspoon, and I was wondering how much more I should. So you actually use 1 to 2 tablespoons a day? Actually, it isn't bad price-wise. I thought it was expensive until I saw how fine it was and how much it uses. Okay, who's just asked that? Okay. Yeah. So I'm waiting for the miracle to happen, people. So for those of you who are interested, I will get the link up for you somewhere here. Yeah, it depends on the powder that you have, right? There are different brands. How long have I been taking it? Jody, a month? I'm asking Jody because she has the memory. She's got 2 brain cells that work. And so, and as she recommended it to me, I can't remember when it arrived. The fresh, that's interesting. Yeah, I think it's about a month that I've been taking it. So I started with just a sprinkle, and now I'm up to, I actually put it in my oats in the morning. So I end up eating what looks like green oats, which is not a very pretty sight, but you don't notice the taste in the oats. And I know it's good. You know, it's good for me. But it's good to know that you are actually taking a couple of tablespoons a day. So I can definitely up my intake. Yeah, so Beth, if you've already got but you know, the reason is because you're eating a very good diet, Beth. And I think, you know, so you probably don't need it as much as some of us who are not eating as good a diet as you are. Well, I'm mentioning it because I'm literally at the point. Yeah, I'm at the point of, you know, what else do I need to do, you know, to start shifting this weight. So, and Beth, I really loved your comment this week, and I thank you for it. You know, it was a very simple, very obvious comment where Beth asked me, you know, what percentage of carbs was I eating? And I'm going, what? And then I realized I had actually put into a little note at the side of my computer here, you know, what percentage of carbs should one be eating? And it said, oh, what happened to, oh, I've lost half of it. But they said between 45 and 65. But what I realized, the point that Beth is making is if I drop the carbs down to the low end of that, I'm probably going to lose a lot of weight. And you know, I know from what I've seen of what Beth eats, she eats very little carbs. I'm definitely working on that, Beth. I'm working at bringing it down. So you can help me with that because you know I'm inclined to put up on that fitness thing. I'm now beginning to put up exactly what I ate in terms of percentages, you know, whether they're carbs, fiber, or protein. So fats, sorry, carbs, fat, and protein. So what I'd like you to do, if you wouldn't mind, Beth, is stay with me here, because I know I'm in the high range at the moment, but I'm working at bringing that down. So, but it is surprising what you can eat, and that's why I'm also, not eating as much meat as I used to. Yeah, we actually have a fitness group, Marie, and we're not necessarily doing all the right things. We just are trying to keep each other motivated to do the best. Right. So Erin's saying she can't eat any carbs or very little, and she's lost 20 pounds at least. That's interesting. You need to be having Nyasha. I'm going to repeat that because this is one of those questions. I sort of get questions like this quite a bit. She says, Mama Sal, can you possibly help me? I'm a diabetic along with other ailments. And for the past month, I have been this strong, sudden urge to sleep. Can you please advise me on how to stop it? Yes, go to the doctor. Tell that story to the doctor, because that is a medical issue. If you have got diabetes and other ailments, and you are now having this strong urge to sleep, there is possibly a medical reason for that. No. Don't be sorry to ask. That's what we're here for. Okay? So, Beth, would you like to write me a little note somewhere and send it to me as to what that looks like in your world? I know that makes perfect sense to you, but I'd like to know what that looks like. Yes, if it's unusual like that is, then you need to be talking to a doctor, not your friends online. Does that make sense, Nyasha? It's, we quite honestly, if you've already got issues and now you've got that as well, it could be depression, it could be, a diabetes thing, but I'm pretty certain that that is a warning signal that you need to be very aware of and talk to a doctor. Do you understand what I'm saying? We talk to a doctor rather than your friends online, because that could be serious. Ketoacidosis. That's sounds like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, doesn't it? All right. So that does not sound good. Yeah, thanks, sweetie. I sent you a big hug. Thank you for talking about it. It's deadly. Yeah, exactly. So, thank you for talking about it. Yeah, sure. Because when you ask questions like that, you not only help yourself, but maybe you help somebody else as well. So, big round of applause for owning that one. And as I said, it could be something that's quite simple, but make sure a doctor knows about it first, just in case it's, a warning sign of something else. I'm a great believer in, yeah, it's definitely something I'd be telling a doctor about now, and quickly. I'd make an appointment as soon as you can and say, okay, fine. My history, now this is happening. What will be causing that? And keep going until they find the answer. The same thing, Nyasha, in my situation, I am losing natural energy. And I'm not sure why. I'm not eating a great deal. I'm putting on weight and losing energy. Now, the losing energy can be because of the weight. Now, the interesting thing is, the really interesting thing is my heart apparently is working in a very good way. All right. I mean, my watch will give me feedback on how hard my heart is working and everything. And it recently sent me a report to say that I was, in the green zone, which was excellent for my age. So, it's sometimes we just don't know what it is. And that's why I'm saying, normally I would think, okay, fine. The reason I'm having these problems with energy maybe is due to my heart. Well, apparently it doesn't look like that. Yes, I have a Fitbit. I love it. I have to say that it definitely was worth the money. The information, where I like it most, and I've got to say this, I have sleep apnea, for those of you who know about that. Um, what I love most about it is, I just want to show you guys. It tells me exactly how much sleep I get, how many times I wake up during the night. Can you see all those red bits? And when I go into REM, when I go into deep sleep, I would have to go to hospital to find that information out. And I can do it with my Fitbit. Isn't that amazing? Tells me exactly how many hours sleep I've had. So yes, Niasha, quite honestly, one of the warning things about depression is that you need extra sleep. Okay, so here's the thing, Niasha. Your doctor just needs to ask you about 10 questions and he'll know whether it's depression. Okay? The one I have is called a Charge 2. And to give you an idea, I think it was around about $150. Okay, so that's a good thing. I understood that. If you put the wrong gas in, you're not going anywhere. All right, so Beth, allowing for the fact that I'm not going to do a complete change, can you help me with this? Can you start working me, because I'm good about doing things slowly. By the way, be careful which one you buy, Marie. This one is not waterproof. And I only found that out later. The last fitness watch I had, I could walk into the shower with it and everything. What I do like about this is that you can, hang on a second, if I can do this. Oops. This has got one of these rubber straps on it, but you can actually buy all different straps. I have the food log every day. And what I like about this watch is that I can, if I can do it with my long nails, hang on one second. I don't want to break a nail here. But what I want to tell you is that these straps come off and I can put a different strap on when I'm going out. Yes, so just be aware, if you want a waterproof watch, don't get the Charge 2. Yeah. Okay, so Beth, I will keep you. You've got rather a lot going on this week, Beth. So maybe we start this once you've settled, after Lily's sort of landed. Yes, I've got a list. I document everything that I eat. I've got those. I could tell you that every day. I can take the snapshot of that. Okay. So good work, people. We will be back on Sunday where we'll do a regular broadcast. I definitely need to have a couple of days to recover from this. I am pretty certain that I will have stirred up all sorts of stuff in my brain, and poor Jones in my head will be trying to refile everything. So just bear with me, and I am looking forward to lunch tomorrow and to dinner on Sunday. So this is a great weekend for me. Thank you for your support, particularly Jody. Thank you for all that you've done to help me get this done. And you've been there in a wonderful way. Life is a work in progress. Absolutely, Beth. And by the way, as I saw something I think Kerry put up recently on her page, which was, it's okay to have bad days. All right. Jody knows about bad days. Beth knows about bad days. Sakura knows about bad days. You know what I mean? Hi, Isabella. You know, it's okay to have bad days. Just because everybody else appears to have good days does not mean that it's true. And all that I ask you is don't make your life into a YouTube video. You don't compare yourself with a YouTube video. Do you understand? The way to be happy is to live in the present. And if you've got stuff you want to get angry about, you want to vent about, you know, you need a friend that you can vent to. We have great people here that you can vent to. If you're feeling scared about something, it's okay. Yeah, Beth had an overload day, right, Beth? It was really weird. And what I decided, Beth, I don't know if you noticed, I didn't overreact to it. Because it was just like, okay, this is not normal. So I'm just going to let this run. I know you well enough to know you're a really smart cookie. All right, so Nyasha saying, I've been told also to take a food log. How do you go about that? Because I just document in the normal books, but they fill up fast. And yeah, there are lots of apps you can get, Nyasha. Did you know that? Where literally you can do it on your cell phone. Some people, hang on a second, let's get them up. We know MyFitnessPal is a great one. I use Fitbit because I have a Fitbit watch. But these programs are free. And what it will do is all you have to do is just type in what you had, and it will keep track for you. And it keeps wonderful track. Hang on one second. I know I shouldn't be still talking, but I'm going to do this because this is important for people who don't know. I just want to show you what it looks like. Bear with me 1 second. I'm trying to go back to my screen. Right. Anybody else? All right. Lose It is another one. Good. That's what I wanted. Yep. Keep reading them out. Okay. So just so I can show you, this is part of what mine does. It records what I've eaten, and it also shows me what I have put into my body, what I did in using up calories. And Beth, just so that you know, today isn't a good day because it's a Friday and I don't eat a lot, but literally I can send you a screenshot like this, Beth, if that's what you need, and it shows you exactly what I ate for the day on one picture. Is that what you need? Yes, I would agree with Beth. All right, I will do that for you. How about you obviously don't want every day, so how many would you need to get an idea of where a small change could be made that I can be working on? Yes, I use most of them you can use on Android and on your laptop. So, and get the ones that are free because there's no need to spend money on them. They've got great apps. 3 days, okay? I'm not going to send you a Friday. Friday is a very difficult day for me because I'm broadcasting for like 4 hours of it, and then I have to get an extra sleep in there. So my eating on a Friday is really not good. But I will send you some from this week. Yeah. So like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday would be a better idea of what I normally eat. Yeah, okay. I will send you some pictures. Can I send them on the fitness page, or do you want them on an email? And who was it that asked to join the fitness? Was that fitness is fine. Okay. Yeah, because you can blow it up and keep it if you want to, right? So you can look at it later. Who was it that wanted to join the fitness group? No, you know what I would do? I would put it, quite honestly, who wants to do that by hand? I would put it into a thing and then just print it out. Mind you, if the doctor, I would ask the doctor, why do you want it by hand? Well, we, we can do this a different way. So, but here's the interesting thing from my experience. I can remember going, and I need you all to hear this because it surprises me. I was quite amazed when I went in for a sleep test thing, and I can remember saying, "What are you guys going to be checking on that I don't already know?" And it was interesting because they said, well, we're looking for your oxygen levels or whatever. And I said, well, I can already tell you that. I already have that information. No, you need a special thing to do that. And I said, yeah, I know, but my watch does it. And they said, no, it couldn't possibly do what the test does. So what I did is I did the oxygen test, with the hospital one. And then when I got the results, I pulled out my phone and I went, that's exactly what my phone had already told me. And, my app. And they said, wow, that's amazing that, that you can get that today. And I said, yes, I mean, these phones today are amazing. And, what I found is sometimes the doctors don't realize just how good they are, because I personally would not be wasting my time writing down what I'm eating because it's much quicker to do it on your laptop. Yeah, the new Apple Watch has an EKG, and I'm certain their doctor's going, well, that isn't any good. Well, hello. Maybe it's better than you know. So what are their names? All right, one is called MyFitnessPal. Did you get that one? There is another one called Lose It, LOSEIT. Jody uses Lose It, I think. And yeah, I literally I sit down and I actually put everything that I eat into my my tablet. Yes, okay. Sakura also uses MyFitnessPal. And I use the Fitbit one, which is very good as well. I have used MyFitnessPal. I think for ease of use, MyFitnessPal is very easy and it has a very good database from my experience. So, it doesn't matter which one you use, just, try both of them for the first week and see which one is easier for you to use. I think it's a personal thing, don't you? depending on what you're using it with. But it literally, you can type in potatoes and it'll ask you, do you mean boiled potatoes? Do you mean mashed potatoes? Did you put butter in the potatoes? Da, 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 da. All those sort of things. Right. So, that's really important stuff because, all those different choices make a different calorie level. You're making me hungry. No, you're making yourself hungry. Oh, okay. So try one and, try them, see which ones you like and see if it helps you. Okay, Beth? Um, I'm pretty sure, Beth, you don't need to be doing this before Lily arrives, right? You got enough on your plate, honey. So, but let me ask you one thing. If I were to change one thing this coming week, what would you recommend? And I will tell you, I have oats for breakfast. Should I be changing that? And I eat oats for breakfast because of the high fiber and ease of manufacture. It's an easy meal to make. So I either drink the oats or I eat them. If I drink them, I liquidize them. So can I continue to do that for breakfast? No. Wow, that wasn't a maybe. That was a big no. With 2 exclamation marks. Okay, people, I'm in big trouble. Eat the oats. Oh, you mean don't liquidize them. Eat them. Don't turn them into oatmeal and drink it. Okay. Make your stomach do the mixing. You've said that to me before. My stomach is my liquidizer. Okay, got it. I have been doing that more. And putting in a teaspoon of this stuff too. So, okay, we can do this, Beth. And Beth, please work very hard, please, at minimizing your stress levels. And please learn how to delegate. I know nobody will ever do it as well as you can, but boy, buddy, you need some space here. You've only got so much time in a day, and you need to let go of some things so you can have time for baby Lily. Well, that's what she was telling me, Sakura, last week, and I actually listened to her. Yeah, the thing is, you're saying, would you eat spinach, apple, and banana and lemon if you didn't blend them? I actually have some vegetable powder, which is a bit like this stuff. Oh, hang on a second. How come she's allowed to blend stuff and I'm not? Okay, hang on. Okay, hang on. How many of you going? Oats are different. So I can blend some things. Oh, Nyasha, quite honestly, have you ever done overnight oats? So literally all you do is take a mason jar, put in, a cup, half a cup of oats and the same amount of water, or I use water and skim milk powder in mine, mix it all up and put it in the fridge overnight. When you get up the next morning, They're really nice creamy oats, and it's not all hard and nasty and whatever. Overnight oats, it's called. It's on YouTube everywhere. But really, literally all you do is you take so much of the oats, so much of a liquid. As I said, I use a skim milk powder and water. And I just mix it up. I don't put fresh fruit with mine, but you can do. Put blueberries in or something, or raisins, I believe also is good. But just literally put them in the fridge overnight, and by the morning it's all done, and it's not hard and nasty. I know what you mean about the hard and nasty. That's another great idea. Add a bit of yogurt in if you like yogurt. Yogurt's good for you, right, Beth? 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 And by the way, I add this into my oats. Makes it a horrible color, but I know it's good. Where did she go? Beth. Yes, whole milk, not skim. Fat makes you full longer. Fat is really? I can go back to drinking whole milk? Are you serious? Now I'm beginning to understand what you're saying to me. I'm eating the wrong things. I'm doing the right things, but with the wrong. Really? So question, I know it's a silly question, but Jody and I have talked about this. Can I use whole milk powder? And the reason I say that is because I'm inclined to froth it up in my foaming machine for my coffees. And it does really well with powders. You can. Okay, I will order some up. All right, guys, I need to go now. So hopefully it's been of some use to all. We had a little bit of everything in this one, didn't we? Get rid of fleas, diet, me too. I mean, what else can we ask for? So everybody have a super Saturday, and happy Thanksgiving again to those Canadians who may watch, and to the rest of you, big hugs, particularly to Linda. And thank you for being here and for supporting one another. It's magical. I really love it. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, we'll see you on Sunday. Bye-bye for now.